learned from my counseling education was that there is a direct relationship between a person's excitement about coming to counseling and the likelihood that he will change absolutely nothing. See, the person who is most excited about being in the counselor's office is the person who thinks that he's fine and there's something wrong with everybody else. And that we've come to the counselor now to get all of these broken people fixed so that my life will be normal again. And it seems like that kind of holds true with forgiveness as well. You see, the lawyer came to Jesus. And he did not come to Jesus to fall at Jesus' feet and to beg forgiveness or to thank Jesus for his forgiveness. But he came to be confirmed in his own self-righteousness. He came because he wanted to be told that he was doing fine. He didn't really need any help. Everybody else might need help, but he was doing good. But you see, Jesus, he doesn't confirm us in our wrong behavior. He does not confirm us in our false notions. He rescues us. He rescues us from sin and death and destruction. See, because when we're trying to save ourselves, we have precious little time for anything else, because saving yourself is like bailing out the Titanic with a thimble. However, when we throw ourselves into Jesus' arms, we find ourselves rescued. And we find ourselves able to accomplish things that we never thought possible. And what do those things look like? Well, they look a lot like rescuing others. That's the joy he gives us. We get to bring other people to Jesus. We get to be little saviors in this world, like the man who helped his friend in the parable of the Good Samaritan. See, salvation is not something we create. It's something we're given. And that's the point that the lawyer in the gospel missed. He thought he could rescue himself with right living and good behavior, but he couldn't. And neither can we. Christ is the one that makes us different. We're different from this world. You see, the reason I read that first part in Leviticus that the bulletin leaves out for whatever reason, probably to save space, is because if you don't hear that first part, then the second part doesn't make as much sense. God wrote Leviticus to us for a reason. And it wasn't just to give us a history of lots of rules and regulations. Sometimes people read Leviticus and they think that the only point of Leviticus is that being a follower of God is really dull. But God's not dull. And he doesn't want a dull life for any of us either. In fact, just the opposite is really true. God sets us on an adventure that is unlike anything we could have created for ourselves. And unlike anything we could imagine. Unlike anything this world could have offered us. In the 10:30 service tomorrow, the Ridleys and the Lewises are bringing two people to Christ. Because we're baptizing their children. Aidan Ridley and Maximus Lewis. And we're going to get to see as a congregation, God set these two people on that amazing adventure. Because see, on the day of our baptisms, we were set on that path. We were just like those people from Leviticus, who were pulled out of the world and set on a new path. And God wants us to have an exciting journey, a real adventure that's as joyful as possible. But the fact that he does that sets us apart. That's the point of Leviticus. God's people are pulled out of the world and set apart. And we're different. And the world sees it. They know it. We have been rescued from an imploding world that one day will be gone. At our baptisms, our ticket was punched. And we inherited the eternal reward that Christ won for us by his death on the cross and proved by his resurrection from the grave. Now, think about what that means. That means that everything in this world is temporary. So don't get overly connected to the things of this world. Don't live as though your electronics and your jobs and your clothes and your houses are the most important things. Because you know what? If we were on a ship and we all knew without a doubt that that ship was going to sink, we would not wrap our futures up in that ship, would we? We would just try to do the best we could do to enjoy the ride as long as we could, but we would always know that it was only temporary. Even if you were a slave bound in chains below decks, if you knew that fact, that your rescue had already been accomplished, and soon this ship was going to sink, and soon you would be free, it would change your whole attitude. You would know that though you are in slavery for now, it's only temporary. So today, as the church cruises through the world, some of us are on the upper decks enjoying the scenery and the rum punch. Some of us are no doubt chained in steerage, where nothing is going right, and no one is expected to end up where they are. But either way, like the Hebrews in Leviticus, never forget who you are. You are the people of God, rescued by Jesus Christ's death on the cross. And there will be some who are angry at you because you have been rescued and taken out of this world, and there will be times when you have survivor's guilt. Why us and not them? But be assured of this, it is God's will that every single person in this world be rescued. It is God's will that every single person in this world experience the high adventure that Max and Aiden will begin to experience at the 10:30 service of their baptisms tomorrow. But some refuse to be set apart. Some in Leviticus refused to be set apart and left the community. Perhaps the lawyer that's reported to us in the gospel refused to be set apart and said no to God. Why do they say no? Well, sometimes because they want to find their own way. It's a matter of pride. Sadly, it's also impossible. But more of them who say no, have no faith. Remember that faith was created at your baptism. But faith must be fed. Without word and without sacrament, faith will starve and die. And it's so easy to become distracted by all the complexities and the shiny baubles in this world, and to forget about God, and to forget about worship. But if faith dies, we have no way of grasping grace. God's grace can be hanging there right in front of us, and we have no power to grasp it if we have no faith. We have been rescued. We have been set aside by God for a purpose, and that purpose is to serve God in leading others to that same rescue. Jesus told the story of one who rescues those in need, and he looks to us just as surely as he looked at that lawyer in the gospel, and he says to us, "Go and do likewise." Did that lawyer go and do likewise? Who knows? Who knows what lawyers will do? We're not told. Maybe he did. Maybe he fell at Jesus' feet and changed his whole life. Or maybe he just continued on trying to rescue himself, to justify himself. But the important question is, what will you do? We've been rescued. This life is transitory, and the only thing that is truly important is serving and worshiping God in all that we do. Because he is the rescuer, and through faith, we cling to the grace that he has given us.